If you are a foreigner dating or planning to marry a Filipina, you have probably heard countless stories about how religious the Philippines is. Many of the foreigners imagine the traditional Filipina as deeply devoted to the Catholic faith. They expect a woman who attends church every Sunday, respects conservative family values, she preserves intimacy until marriage, and she follows strict religious teachings. For many of the Western men, this image becomes part of the fantasy. They see that the Philippines is a place that are untouched by modern Western dating culture. And Philippines is a country where women are supposedly more loyal, more family oriented, more modest and traditional. But the reality is far more complicated. Because while the Philippines remains one of the most Catholic countries in the world, modern Filipino society is also changing rapidly through social media, through online dating, and Western entertainment. So, what happens when expectations collide with your reality? And what happens when you marry a Filipina whose family is extremely religious while you have not stepped inside a church in years? Or what if you expect a conservative Catholic wife only to discover that her personal lifestyle is actually very modern and independent? And on the other side, what if religion becomes such a central part of her identity that you begin feeling emotionally disconnected inside your own marriage? Dearest gentle viewers, this is me again, Fretchiedepablografe. If you are curious about the real stories behind the stereotypes in the Philippines, please do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button. For today, we are going to talk about the expectations versus the reality of Catholic culture in Filipino-foreigner relationships and how these hidden differences quietly affect your love, quietly affect your family life and your long term compatibility. The first reality check is that you cannot really force spiritual compatibility. One of the biggest mistakes people make in a cross cultural relationships is believing that love alone can erase major differences in worldview. Well, it cannot. If your relationship is built on a dynamic where one partner mainly provides financial stability, while the other partner brings only traditional family values, then you also need to understand the limits of that arrangement. Again, money cannot buy genuine spiritual connection, and traditional values cannot automatically erase incompatibility. If your Filipino partner is deeply invested in her Catholic faith, while you have absolutely no interest in religion, then forcing each other to change usually just creates resentment instead of closeness. Just like, take for example, a religious Filipina wife may constantly encourage her foreigner husband to pray maybe before meals or attend church events or participate in religious traditions. Meanwhile, the foreign husband may feel pressured, may feel controlled, or emotionally exhausted because he does not naturally connect with those practices before. But the opposite can also be damaging. If the foreign partner dismisses her faith as an old fashioned or just superstition, then the Filipina may feel personally disrespected because religion in the Philippines is often tied to identity, often tied to family upbringing and emotional comfort. In many of the Filipina foreigner relationships, religion is not just a hobby. It is actually again connected to family expectations, to our morality, guilt, respect, and even social acceptance. So that is why spiritual incompatibility becomes deeper than people initially expect. I would also like to share to you guys what I saw with the parents of my best friend. So, her Filipino mom became deeply involved in church life over time. So, eventually, her mom wanted to become a pastor and dedicate her huge life to ministry. Her foreign father was never truly open about it or passionate about religion in the first place because he is an American guy. At the beginning, he tried to be supportive because he loved his wife, but as the years passed, you could clearly see the emotional gap between them growing wider. So, in the end, he simply gave up resisting and decided to support her calling anyway. So, as people would say, happy wife, happy life. But honestly, when I observe their relationship closely, you can feel that the foreigner is not genuinely engaged spiritually. He participates more for the sake of preserving the peace and avoiding conflict inside the marriage rather than because he truly shares the same passion or beliefs. And this is the uncomfortable reality many of the couples do not talk about. Sometimes in the relationship, in order to keep a marriage stable, one person ends up compromising far more deeply than expected, and that compromise may look peaceful on the outside, but emotionally, it can slowly create distance if both of the partners are no longer truly living from the same emotional or spiritual foundation. Now, let's talk about the major three expectations versus reality in the Philippines. Expectation versus reality number one is all religious Filipinas are extremely traditional. Your expectation is that many of you guys assume that because the Philippines is religious, most of the Filipinas are automatically conservative or automatically modest, inexperienced in dating, and highly traditional. Some even travel to Asia specifically because they believe that they will find an innocent or untouched woman compared to women in the West. Now, this fantasy still exists very strongly online, but the reality is modern Philippine culture has changed dramatically. Social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and dating apps have heavily influenced younger Filipino generations. So today, like modern dating culture, like intimacy before marriage, single motherhood, or hookup culture and influencer lifestyles are becoming increasingly normalized, especially in urban areas in the Philippines. And yes, there are still genuinely traditional Filipinas who strongly follow Catholic teachings and conservative family values. But assuming that every Filipina is automatically conservative simply because they come from the Philippines is unrealistic. Many of the foreigners become shocked when they discover that some of the Filipinas may identify themselves as Catholic culturally while not strictly following church teachings in their personal lives. Many of the people are religious by identity, but again, they are just modern by lifestyle. Expectation versus reality number two is that religion will never become a serious problem. Your expectation is that at the beginning of the relationship, many of the couples believe that religion is a small issue. The foreign partner assumes like she can go to church if she wants. I truly respect it. There's really no problem at all. While the Filipino partner assumes that he may not be religious now, but eventually he will adjust. So everything feels peaceful while dating, but in reality, the real tension often appears after marriage, especially when the children enter the picture. So suddenly, religion becomes practical instead of theoretical. So there would be questions like, will the children be baptized Catholic? Like, will they attend Sunday school? Will they pray before meals? Will the foreign husband participate in religious holidays? And these small disagreements slowly become emotional landmines because, again, religion influences parenting and discipline. So, again, a couple can deeply love each other while still struggling to build a unified household because their core beliefs are pulling in different directions. Now, expectation versus reality number three. Catholic culture in the Philippines is very strict. Your expectation is that many of you guys would imagine the Philippines as extremely conservative in daily life. They expect strict dress codes, highly formal church behavior, and rigid religious discipline. But the reality is that Filipinos are more relaxed and contradictory. So, in some provinces, you may see a lot of young Filipinas attending church like dressed casually or sometimes even like they are going to a party or a social gathering. Young Filipinas may openly joke online about religion while still identifying themselves as Catholic. And some families are extremely strict, while others barely discuss religion at all. So, this creates confusion for foreigners out there because, again, the religious image of the Philippines does not always match the everyday behavior they observe. And honestly, social media changed everything. People now compare lifestyles globally every single day. That also influences dating expectations, it influences family values, and even religious identity. For me, religion is not only about going to church every day or going to church every Sunday. For me, it shapes how really people handle suffering, guilt, marriage, forgiveness, and even crisis. So, just like, for example, during a financial problem, for example, a devout Catholic partner may rely heavily on prayer, faith, and surrender to God. Meanwhile, a non religious partner may focus entirely on logic, on planning, and practical solutions. So, neither approach is automatically wrong, but when couples do not understand each other emotionally, they begin feeling isolated during difficult moments. And that emotional disconnect quietly destroys many of their relationships over time. One of the healthiest approaches in Filipino-foreigner relationships is learning the art of respectful compromise. The foreign partner does not necessarily need to convert, and the Filipina partner should not be expected to abandon her beliefs either. The Catholic Church actually, guys, usually does not force conversion for marriages. Well, in fact, many of the Filipino priests discourage fake conversions that are done only to satisfy family expectations. The healthiest situation, guys, is just when both of you respect each other honestly, and maybe the foreign husband attends church occasionally out of love and respect, and maybe the Filipino wife accepts that her husband connect to life differently. And that middle ground is often far healthier than forcing complete agreement because genuine respect lasts longer than forced performance. And to wrap up this video, guys, here is the absolute truth. A values match is far more important than a religious label. So, your shared values define how you behave toward one another, how you handle money, and how you treat your family members. So, when couples do not realize that they have different core values until after the wedding, then that is when the real friction begins. But if there is one cultural trait that remains completely undeniable across almost all Filipinos, regardless of how religious they are, it is that we value family above everything else. So we help one another even when it becomes an emotional or financial burden. For instance, I personally send money to support my mom and my brother so they can live a better life. So, to a Westerner, for example, this level of financial obligation can be shocking or hard to understand, but in our Filipino culture, it is really an unspoken law of love and duty. So if you can respect that family bond and find a right partner whose core values match yours, so religion won't be a barrier at all. So it will just be another part of your unique story. So, what do you think, guys, about this topic? Have you also experienced this cultural difference in your own relationship? Please let me know in the comments below. So, that would be all for now, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more insights like this. See you in my next video. Ciao!